have it on max. I'll
Yeah,
talk. I'll try to talk a little louder.
Well, I can hear you. It's just like I wish I could crank it up a little more because if there's any background noise, I just can't hear quite as well. I don't know why it might be one of my settings that's causing it to be a little more quiet than usual, but we'll get online and hopefully people can hear us and it probably won't be a big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, you met Simon Pegg, but you didn't know it was Simon Pegg, and I'm super jealous.
Yeah, so just for anyone seeing the stream, we were just talking beforehand about the Mission Impossible movies and how 1 and 2 are still pretty entertaining but don't hold up as well, and I really like 3, which is dark and gritty, and also like 4, which is, goes a totally different direction, is more humorous, has Simon Pegg in it. And I was telling Kyle that I think I met Simon Pegg at my very first PAX. I didn't know what we didn't know what we were doing. We got a booth before we'd even announced the game at all. And we just show up in the Indie Mega booth when it was first starting out with this, the very first version, before Kickstarter, before anything. No one knew who we were. And so this group of people walks up to the booth, and a few of them are dressed kind of nicely, and, it just looks like a bunch of guys with ties kind of thing, a group of 5, and I assume they're from, like, a media outlet or whatever, and one guy starts kind of chatting with me, and I can't hear very well because we're on the show floor, but he said, I think he asked if Simon Pegg could play our game, but I still didn't recognize the guy because I don't know if he just didn't look like he does when he's in a movie, or if maybe he had more of a beard or something. I don't remember, but like now I can't remember how the conversation went, but it was this sort of like awkward. I was like, oh, so who are you with? And he's like, Simon Pegg. I'm like, who? And he pointed over his shoulder, and I like kind of freaked out because I'm like, oh, this is, that I think that's the actor, and he's in my booth. Like, I was like, take the controller.
That's pretty awesome. Do you remember what he said?
Simon Pegg didn't talk to me at all. Like, he didn't say a single thing. He seemed like very just kind of in his own. I think he didn't want to get fan mobbed or something, and he just wanted to go around and play the game. So he kind of, it was like the guys around him were the ones who were there to engage with people and I don't know, fend off the hordes or something.
Yeah.
But it was a really surreal moment, and I was like very embarrassed that I hadn't recognized him at first. Or when the guy first said his name, like I couldn't hear, and then I was like, wait, does he actually mean? Because he was so casual about it, like, oh yeah, Simon Pegg, and it's just like you're like, no wait, like the Simon Pegg?
Yeah, like the actual like Simon Pegg. Well, that's pretty cool.
And for your first time at PAX, you don't really expect stuff like that. But then the next PAX, we've got not quite as big of a celebrity, but Total Biscuit showing up in our booth, and so like you're kind of like, okay, this be ready for. Well, and also second PAX, Gabe came by the booth.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, and I chatted with him for a second. I was kind of giving him the pitch on the game because I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'll explain the game to him. He's like, oh, I know who you guys are, and so I just gave him a controller and left him alone.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I think those are the only kind of high-profile people that have come by our booth. Really, I met Bob Mackey, who used to be from like EGM and does the Retronauts. The Retronauts podcast, and those are basically that's my only list of high profile people I think I've met in person at PAX.
That's pretty cool. And we met the Nippon Ichi guys.
Yeah, I guess, well, we met lots of other developers, but Nippon Ichi was pretty fun to talk to them, and I went to one of their panels last time too.
And we also met
Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, we met the Darkest Dungeon guys who are stand-up people. I feel I have to say that every time now since I crapped over their game a couple streams ago. And we met the people who did Dungeon Defenders. At least I did. I don't know if you were at the booth.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I feel like there are probably a couple more people. Well, it's like, there are lots of devs that I've met, but I was trying to think, like, is there anyone else who's like a well-known YouTuber, or there are a couple other YouTubers that we've met and things like that, but Anyway, there's probably someone important that I'm forgetting, just because it all, like, after you've been kind of dead on your feet for a couple days at those conventions, it all starts blurring together, no matter how, important of a person you meet or whatever.
Yeah. It was pretty rough on that last day. So I think collectively between the 3 days I had maybe like 5 hours of sleep or 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah, jeez.
But I loved it. I want to go back. I want to do booth stuff again. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure I've said this to you before, but I mean, when it came right down to it, I was like, I'm not really interested in Evolve because they were showing off Evolve. They had a thing for the pre-sequel, which I got to look at before the venues really started to open up. Because I got there every day at like 7:30, 8. Just to walk around and talk to some devs before they were mobbed. But yeah, other than that, I wasn't really interested in anything they were showing off. They had Watch Dogs they were showing off, a bunch of Magic stuff. A lot of the AAA stuff, I was just like, whatever. And then, but the Mega Booth was really cool. I really enjoyed getting to see the Mega Booth. But really, the coolest part was getting to talk to people at the Delver's Drop booth and interact with them. I think that was the highlight for sure for me.
And I was just double checking. I actually met Tycho. Or Tycho, or however people, because it's actually Tycho Brahe is the reference, I think, but I think everyone calls him like Gabe and Tycho, right?
I thought it was supposed to, Tycho. I thought it was Tycho Brahe.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, so it was him. Because I always, between their like comic names and real names, I always get the names completely mixed up.
Yeah, I forget what his real name is.
Well, it's that probably isn't Jerry. Again, here I'm gonna like get super confused. I
think his last name starts with a K.
Mike Krahulik. So,
yeah.
And so, okay, so let's memorize this. So Mike Krahulik is Gabe. What did you say? Who is the artist?
Yeah, he's the artist of Penny.
And Jerry Holkins is Tycho, and he is the one that I met.
Oh, that's cool. What did he have to say?
Well, he was the one, like I was saying, he just came up to the booth, and I get sort of nervous and start giving our typical spiel about, like, this is Delver's Drop, it's a, roguelike action RPG, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, I know who you guys are. And I was like, okay, cool. And he was basically just, like, hugging on his wife and playing our game. I was like, okay, you're a cool dude. You love your wife a lot. So. Anyway,
that's really cool. I mean, it's his convention, really, when you think about it.
So, so what are we doing today?
More enemy families for the ghosts, I think.
Okay.
Or more inspirational art. It's all inspirational, but
element stuff, you mean, or?
No, stuff like the Spire. I just lost the word for whatever.
Oh, like concept art-y things?
Yeah, concept art. There you go. That's the word. Doom votes enemies, though.
Well, and last week, I guess we sort of worked on elements yet again, and
I
probably made 0 progress on anything. We probably made negative progress.
Probably. Do you want to pull Nathan in here so you can work and we can prattle on?
Oh, no, it was mostly just because anytime I work on elements, I feel like I make backwards progress.
Oh.
And, well, Nathan and I have been working on objects and room gen stuff and, like, kind of updating objects to work with the new system. So I actually haven't looked at these enemies since I made them a couple weeks ago, so this is kind of nice to jump back. So I guess maybe we'll finish Ghosts and then go on to another family.
Okay.
And since I've been doing objects, I don't have any of this data up, so let me pull the sheet here.
Doom asks, is that a grassy mound?
Grassy, like probably up
Yeah,
up
up
to the
above,
right.
as far as I know.
Yeah, these are new object templates. Like I think I mentioned, we changed the grid size, so now the grid is 72 instead of 60 pixels. So we basically the tile size and object size for, well, certain objects at least, went up by 20%. Characters stayed the same. We're updating the way things like chains work. So now you've got these posts at even increments from tile to tile, and that it makes it easier for the game to generate them, because you'd never do like repeated chains one after another. It's like chain post, so it makes certain things easier. We can do breakable chains, because if we have a 3 long chain and break it in the middle, just be like it would become very difficult to make all the unique combinations of lengths that need to break. So this way we can have a breakable chain, because it's only one tile and that's the only length that it ever is. So you just break this one and the other ones stay the way they are, and that sort of thing. So we're updating that stuff. I was revising chairs a little bit because their perspective was kind of funky before, and then we've been needing to do vegetation for a long time. So this is kind of a random clump of vegetation made out of a couple different sized bushes and some chunks of grass. And then we're going to take the old versions of crates and things like that and resize them slightly to match the new sizing system, crates and treasure chests and whatnot.
Will you be able to sit in chairs?
Well, I mean, like the character basically, this is just a standing pose, so you probably won't be able to. We don't really. It's something I need to talk about with Kobe at some point. Like if you can be kind of on objects that have height, which previously, if you like, let's say you were able to like blast yourself with a bomb and land on top of something like this, which is theoretically possible. The registration is off, so you could probably stand on it about right here. But Kobe set it up to where you like kind of bounce and bounce and kind of like wiggle until you fall off. So if a coin lands on top of a crate or something, it kind of bounce, and falls to one side. But there's some problems with that system, because then like coins can fall behind walls and where you can't get to them and stuff. So I don't know, like we get into a really big hairy situation where you could like very easily jump over stuff if we allow you to stand on top of things all the time. So
how's it going, Nate?
What's that?
Person in the chat room from my stream coming to visit.
Hello, whoever you are. I didn't quite catch the name. I thought you said
Nadrog 13. Nadrog 13. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that because I'm terrible, but.
So, anyway, as far as like, there's still some object stuff where, well, Kobe's working on the physics. We're gonna be coming into the office tomorrow to bang our heads against the physics system, but so far we've been kind of letting him work independently as we work on all of this kind of refactoring of stuff.
Yeah, I know. Back in, well, I guess almost every single build, you could get knocked onto objects thanks to the plague rats. You'd bounce and you'd skitter around, and sometimes you'd go outside the map and be able to walk around in the void, which is no good. I didn't lose you, did I?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the. I'm just looking at the enemy sheet over here, so trying to find the.
So those of you who are new to this, because we didn't really do a preamble or anything like that because we're professionals, this is art and enemy concept art for the game Delver's Drop, which is done by Pixelscopic, which Ryan Baker is like the co-founder and lead artist for, among many other titles.
A little bit of everything.
Yep, and I am a trespasser in their domain. I shouted loud enough and long enough to get where I am.
And you help edit and write some of our Kickstarter posts periodically, so that we can keep working on the game and not just do Kickstarter posts full time, as well as help us with the live stream and promotion things.
And potentially other stuff later down the road, yes.
Yeah.
Also a man with many hats. As I've learned over the years of doing this whole YouTube streaming thing, that basically if you're an indie company, you don't just have one set job. You have many jobs that all get done at the same time. Seems to be the way it is. If only you had the budget of EA, right, Baker?
Yeah. Then we probably also have the problems of EA.
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. You'd be much bigger, so it's hard to say. I'm in a D&D group online, and they're all like finally getting around to playing Dragon Age Inquisition, which I know I'm just opening up the floodgates for Doom to make fun of me for, but whatever. And they're like, oh man, it's such a good game. I was like, yeah, but EA is, you know, kind of scummy. They're like, what do you mean? It's like, you guys don't play video games often, do you? Then I don't know if you follow a lot of EA's games, like Civilization obviously isn't an EA game, but
yeah, I haven't been following much of anything recently between like wedding planning and Delvers and everything else. I stopped reading the news as much as I used to.
Yeah.
And I guess also when the kind of games journalism collapsed a little bit, and now like Polygon's, you know, like I guess Polygon and well, US Gamer is doing some pretty good stuff, but like when all the sites kind of changed over, I think I used to also have like RSS feeds set up for things, and then like all the sites changed, and then they Mac Mail stopped supporting RSS feeds, and then my ability to keep up with news just went out the window.
Well, you know the whole debacle with the newest SimCity game, right?
Yeah.
Well, Paradox, who does EU4 and a bunch, you know, they do a bunch of stuff. They're based out of Sweden. They published City Skylines, which I know Matthew is a huge fan of. So Civilization Beyond Earth came out, and I don't know if you know about Andromeda. It was like their Civilization, but in space.
I mean, I saw something about the game, but I don't really know much about the circumstances surrounding all that.
People weren't. I mean, it's an okay game from what I've heard, but it didn't satisfy the people who are like, oh, well, you know, this is the new wave of the, you know, Andromeda, and we're all super excited about that. So Paradox has greenlit, I guess, a 4X style space game, and I think it's called Stellaris. So if you're interested in those kind of games, guys, Stellaris I think is coming out next year sometime, and I for one am super excited.
And that's, I think I probably mentioned before, but I would really like to get into those kind of 4X and RTS genres, but it's like the one that always gets the short shrift with me.
No, they take a lot of time.
Yeah.
They take a lot of time. If you ever want to play EU4, you know who to talk to.
Okay.
Not me, Northern Lion. Talk to Northern Lion.
Okay.
I'm sure you have him on speed dial. Doom says that ghost has one strong arm. The Requiem. But I think you changed it when he said that, so I don't know. Nathan's not allowed to leave. I see him walking back there with his backpack, or whatever, messenger bag, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know if he's leaving for the day or Maybe he did leave for the day. He's coming in again tomorrow, so but I don't know what time he was leaving. We keep it pretty fluid around here.
Mm-hmm. Everyone else can go, just not Nathan. He's gotta stay. I like the scythe.
Yeah, something about it isn't working as well as I wanted it to. It's hard with the perspective and everything.
It's echo green, not ectoplasmic green.
Well, I was thinking about making up a substance in the world called ecoplasm for
there you go.
The same purpose.
Mm-hmm. Doom suggests working on the cultists, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Not that you should be surprised. I vote on the termites. I forget their full name.
I think it's changed multiple times, so I don't even know anymore.
The ones that have Merc inside them.
Yeah, Merc stomachs or whatever.
Mm-hmm. The terms, I believe they were called back when I had that document.
Yeah, which that name kind of annoyed me because it's too obviously like, oh, they're termites. We're just spelling it T-U-R-M-S or whatever.
Yeah. There's an interesting critter. I think people would like to see that. And don't let me forget to ask you for a screen cap this time, as I've slacked on that.
Did we not do that last week?
Couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It slips my mind.
Yeah,
but
I got off my groove.
I have a memo attached to my new monitor, which I don't know if you heard. I think I told you that my monitor died.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a 32-inch monitor.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it was cheaper than the 24-inch that I bought way back when. So, but I don't think it's actually the monitor. I mean, the monitor is dead. I can't get it to work on any other system. But I think it's something that's wrong with the computer. I just haven't. I know what causes it. I haven't sourced it to either a hardware or a software issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm terrified of pushing it too much in case the entire computer breaks and have to call my sister and be like, my computer broke again, can you come over after work and help me fix it until 9 o'clock at night, which I know you really want to do. Olive oil based dressing is the best. Pumpkin seed oil. You're both wrong. Sesame oil is the best oil. Or if you want to deep fry, avocado oil.
That's interesting. Katie was actually just saying something about wanting to try avocado oil.
It has a really high smoke point.
Hmm.
I think it's actually one of the highest smoke points of oils that you can buy commercially.
Hmm.
It's in the 500 range, and you want a high smoke point for deep frying oil, because each time an oil hits its smoke point, it starts creating free radicals in the oil, and it degrades the overall, substance. So you want to be able to subject the oil to high heat over and over and over and over and over for deep frying.
Yeah.
Peanut oil is also really good. I think it's like 450. Olive oil is really low. It's good for like pan searing and stuff, but I don't prefer it. I mean, people love olive oil. Obviously, Mason's talking about olive oil and vinegar, which is a pretty standard salad dressing, but I don't know. I'm not a big Italian food fan, so I don't usually go for the olive oil. The more you know about cooking. It's all chemistry.
That's probably why I hate cooking.
That's what I really
hate
like
chemistry.
cooking. Really?
Yeah, it's too well, at least like the kind of chemistry that I had to like just the math side. I would probably be fine at, but My science classes weren't that great in high school, and we were, every time we're like, here's a bunch of water, and you're supposed to boil it down and measure how much salt was in it, or what, like all that stuff would always. There's just so much margin for error. I hate it.
Yeah.
And that stuff really isn't chemistry. It's just I hate school assignments for like dumb high school chemistry. Is basically what I actually mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was never good at the math side, but I took 3 years of chemistry in high school, and all 3 were like AP level courses.
Mm-hmm.
And I got A's in them. So apparently I'm good at chemistry. I'm not good at physics. So I was supposed to take physics my senior year, and I was like, "There's no way I will pass this." So the teacher was the hardest teacher in our class, and he was like also the calc teacher, and like the super high level math teacher. So I was like, "There's no way I can do his work." So I was like, "Can I just take another chemistry course?" I'm like, "Yeah, we have this." It was like aquatic ecology, but it was all like chemistry class. So like what you were talking about, like boiling water, seeing what's inside of it. Ohio has a lot of wetlands, and the teacher was a massive stoner. So instead of, I think we did one test the entire, because it was a dual semester. The first semester we did the aquatic ecology, and then the next semester we did archaeology, which was cool because it was billed as a chemistry class, but we didn't do any chemistry. We just kind of like, we went over like anthropology and stuff, which was really cool. For the aquatic ecology class, we also didn't do any chemistry. We went down to the wetlands and smoked pot and hung out with our teacher, which was pretty cool. I gotta say. Don't do drugs, kids. Stay in school, don't do drugs. But yeah, I think we had one test. It was like a page long, and it had nothing to do with any of the coursework that we were given. I hated organic chem in college. See, my father, every time I talk to him, says, "You should go back to school. You should do organic chem because you'd be amazing at it." And I was like, "I don't want to do organic chem. I like chemistry. I like doing chemistry as a hobby, but same with cooking. I hated working in kitchens. I hated working, and that's all I really ever worked in was kitchens. I hated it. It sucked the joy out of it. I just couldn't handle it, and I'm afraid that's how I would feel about organic chem in college. That's why I went into psychology and teaching, and I ended up not liking that either. Right, Baker? College is fun.
Well, I liked college pretty well, but it was definitely wore me out.
Where did you go to college?
Here at MSU.
Oh, okay. That's right. You and Matthew went to the same college. He's still in college, right? He hasn't graduated yet.
Yeah, Matt, do you have one more semester or 2 more? One more? Yeah. He finished his design stuff, or at least like the main kind of design exhibition that you have to do before you get your design degree.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Nathan went there too. Kobe did not.
Yeah, and Kobe was pre-med, right?
Yeah, for a while. He was at Kansas City. I forget specifically which what college and all. I guess KCMU.
Mason, if I went to the same college as you, I would act as if I didn't know you either. So, Matthew has it right. Go, Matthew. My first professor was German and had a very lovely but heavy accent. My communications teacher, when I transferred over to radio communications, was from India, and he had just moved from, I want to say he lived in Lahore, which actually is in Pakistan, I'm pretty sure now. But I think he'd been in the U.S. for like a year and a half and spoke almost no English. So there's some irony for you. Super nice guy. Put up with a lot of my crap. I went to a pretty conservative religious college, which I didn't know I was getting into at the time. And we had to do our, we had I think a speech every 3 weeks we had to do. And the first speech I did was on internet piracy, which I'm generally, and I know Baker will probably like throw things at me when I say this, but I'm generally not against it in a general sense, like music piracy and stuff. Don't pirate video games. You can pirate everything else. And I hadn't realized just how super conservative most of the students were at my college. It was not well received. So I think from then on I was just like, well, I'm gonna do my 3-week speech on things that I know will just drive the students in my class insane. And I did, and the teacher thought it was hilarious.
So the teacher was cool with it?
Oh yeah, he loved it. On the last day, because he and I didn't, because I wasn't officially part of the communications school until more or less I was done with my freshman year. I was still in the history department, and he said, "Hey, are you coming back next year?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to come back and focus more on my communications degree." And he's like, "Well, you need to have the school, had like each student had like a teacher proctor." And he's like, "Well, I'd like to be your proctor." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I loved everything that you did in my class, and here's the classes I'm teaching next year, and these are all required classes. So why don't you just sign up today?" I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that."
That's cool.
So yeah, and then the head of the radio department, his name was John Vogel. He doesn't work there anymore, so I'll say his name. They fired him, unfortunately. We did like heavy metal and punk and all sorts of counterculture music, and the student the student body president and the actual school. I'm so blanking on words today, and it's driving me crazy. Like the board of directors and stuff hated the hell out of us. So we were crude and loud, and we were playing Satan music and stuff. And every time we would, because we'd play music, and it's really hard to understand what they're saying in death metal. So it was always this, "Oh, well, your music cursed." Well, no, it didn't. We actually worked at a station that was, approved by the FCC. We were an actual FM station, so we had to follow FCC guidelines. So we couldn't curse or anything like that. So I think on top of the massive credit hours everyone in the radio show had, we did, I think, 9 or 10 hours of extra work for the radio program a week. We printed out every single song lyrics, and we even actually got in contact with a couple of the record labels and said, "Hey, we're this college station in rural Ohio, and we'd love to play your music, but it's FCC, so we have to get your permission." And most of the time they said, "Yeah, you can play our music. We don't care what you do with it." But every week, every Friday, the head of the radio department would come in and be like, "Hey, the board of directors want your head on a silver platter." And we'd have to go in front of the board of directors pretty much every week with a book of all the lyrics that we had printed out, proving that none of the songs that we had were breaking FCC regulation. For a year. So that was fun.
Yeah. Sounds like a bit of hassle.
Yeah, but it was kind of worth it. people tell you not to fight the system and don't make waves, but sometimes those fights are necessary. And I'm not, you know, it was a lot of hassle and it was a lot of stress, and it probably didn't help anything to be on the bad side of the people who basically ran our lives, but makes for a good story, right? And they're talking about college classes in the chat. So these are some cool ghosts. I was a rebel, Nate. I mean, I still am. I don't respect authority. I'm bad like that. I don't toe the line. Fight the system, fight the power. I'd join marches if it wasn't 125 degrees outside in Phoenix in the summer. Which, it's pretty close. I think it's 113 right now. So, be glad that you don't have to be in Phoenix, I guess, Baker.
Yeah. I just would not be.
Yeah, it's 100.
For me, please.
It's 109 right now. It's supposed to be 120 tomorrow. That's what the Weather Channel is saying. We have an excessive heat warning, which I'd never heard until I moved out here. Basically, if you're old, don't go outside because you'll die. It's a grim reality. Every year we have a lot of old people whose ACs break.
Yeah.
But we don't get storms. It rained all day yesterday though. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, that's pretty rare for you, I would think.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty rare. It was massive. I mean, it's the El Nino is coming in, and this is monsoon season, so it rains a lot more up in the north. In Flagstaff, I think it would rain every single day for a good 20 minutes. You could set your clock to it, like around 1 o'clock, the clouds would roll in. Then by 2
during the season, you mean, or?
Yeah, just during the season. It snowed a lot in Flagstaff. It's up in the mountains. Every year you'd get a little bit of snow. The winter when I was just about to move down to Phoenix, it actually got into the negatives, I think, every single day for like 2 weeks. When Voss joins a march, he runs forefront with arms wide open, scaring the police away. Well, that is true. I won't deny that. When the Occupy movement was in Phoenix, I was gonna go, and I remember I called my dad, like, hey, I'm gonna go join the Occupy march in Phoenix, and he basically said, if you do that, I'm not helping you out of prison. He's like, I mean, he thought we would get shot at and he's like, I don't want you to put yourself in that way. Are you doing ghost animation frames, by the way? Doom asks.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what this dirge ghost would look like when she does like a banshee scream.
Cool. Mason was apparently at a topless rally.
Yeah, I guess that was a thing recently in Springfield, or everywhere.
Oh, the police hear us talking about it. Here they come.
Yeah, that's the fire station down the street. You would think that people wouldn't set their houses on fire that often, but I guess it happens.
Yeah, mistakes happen. And then sometimes arson. That also happens. I remember one of the restaurants that was next to the one I worked at in Ohio caught fire. And it was actually a case of arson. The owner was trying to collect on the insurance. And in the newspaper it said Antonia was damaged by fire. And the place was literally burned to the ground. There was not even the the retaining walls and stuff left.
Wow.
We got to close for the day, and I still got paid.
Well, that's always nice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not having to work next to a blazing it. Well, I mean, we really thought that our building was going to catch fire too.
Yeah.
Luckily, it did not. I had to go through it to get the animation lab. Oh, I see. So you were at a topless rally. You were not in a topless rally. You had to walk through a topless rally. You did not participate. Shame on you. Did you at least take your shirt off to blend in, Mason? I wouldn't have done that because no one wants to see that, but that would have been my excuse too. MSU is pretty big in Springfield, yeah?
What do you mean by big exactly?
I mean, is I guess is Springfield a college town?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, it's not as much as like Columbia is for MU, because like the only thing there is the college, pretty much. And there are probably people who would disagree with me on that, but I want to say that like, I mean, I think Springfield has the third largest population in Missouri, so it is, yeah, it's, I believe, less of a college town than Columbia. But anyway,
Mason says he was. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mason says he was born without a shirt, which I believe so was everyone else here, which I think is the joke. Yeah, I was just curious about how big the college was there.
You can tell things get busier around town when, like, this is move-in weekend, so we tried going to get lunch, and it was kind of a disaster traffic-wise. But that's also, we went near campus. So
you apparently have Drury as well, Mason says.
Yeah, there's Drury, OTC, Evangel, and like a Badarot community college type place.
Okay.
But yeah, like OTC, Ozark Community, or Ozark Technical College, I guess, is pretty big. Katie's actually going there for hospitality and culinary. And
oh, cool.
then, yeah, Drury is a larger, kind of more private school. But MSU is bigger than those two.
Phoenix is like 80% University of Arizona. Or Arizona University, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is a massive, massive party school. Which I think #1 party school in the nation. And it shows.
Yeah.
Like like Phoenix is separated into a bunch of like smaller cities. So it's Phoenix Metropolitan.
Yeah.
And the main campus is in an area called Tempe. And you can tell it's mostly college kids in Tempe. You can also tell that a lot of money gets funneled into that area because it's one of the nicer areas in Phoenix. It has a very like European feel to the entire city. You like when you drive in from another area of Phoenix into Tempe, it's totally different. Like the buildings change, street lights change, the roads change. A lot of them are brick roads. Like you can tell when you cross over the city line, you can immediately tell that you're in Tempe. Same with where I am though. Gilbert's also pretty nice. Well, I live right next to downtown, which they have done a lot of work to make downtown Gilbert feel like a boardwalk. Even though we're nowhere near, water or anything. Like it's your typical small town like feel is what they've tried to channel.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are a bunch of big buildings around, but they've almost made like a facade of small little street shop, hangouts. It's pretty nice. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty cool place.
Yeah,
I live in Springfield.
Oh, I don't know. I've never been to Springfield. Maybe one day when Delver's Drop comes out, I'll visit. Doom says party school exchange year planned. Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona University is well known throughout the country for being incredibly wild. And not that I know anything about this, but a lot of amateur adult film companies exist in Tempe as well to capitalize on the student body and the bodies of students.
But
yeah. Yeah, you'd have to live in Arizona though, Doom. Arizona's the #1 sunniest state in the union. Even above Hawaii. I think Hawaii is #3. Arizona, California, Hawaii, New Mexico, then Florida. I mean, it's Florida. Who wants to go to Florida? Nobody. Nobody wants to go to Florida. I'll answer for all of you. Nobody.
Yeah, Florida's kind of weird. I've only been once.
I won't say it's my least favorite state, but I will say that it's not my favorite state. Of all the states I have been to, the one I would want to live in most is Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colorado's pretty cool, but it was also like I went to Denver last year on a little vacation with Katie, and it was kind of a weird place somehow. Like it just like a sort of strange vibe. I don't know. It seems like there's just like an even starker difference between like the nice areas in sort of the middle of Denver and the like it immediately becomes very poor and like just like it's just strange.
Yeah.
I think anywhere in the kind of west feels weird to me. Like the that whole kind of strip of like like from West Texas all the way up through like Colorado and I don't know, there's just something or like New Mexico too. It's there's just like this kind of different like I guess transitions from like going from like city to rural areas feel so different. Where here it's like a little more like I wouldn't say gradual, but it's like a little more fluid. Like there's, like it, but as you're driving, it gets more rural. And if you're somewhere in like New Mexico, you go from like city to like to shantytown to hippie town. Like with like a gap in between.
Yeah, I mean,
the impression I got.
I can kind of agree with that, especially here in Arizona. I mean, I've been to 36 of the 50 states. So I've kind of seen what you're talking about. If you go up in the plains though, I mean, driving from Indianapolis to St. Louis, it's pretty stark, the differences between rural and city. There is a bit more gradual, I guess, and it's kind of harder to tell just by going off the highways.
Well, and I think I'm just used to seeing like rural farm country areas, and a lot of that is kind of poor, but there's a different kind of like rural poorness that it seems like when you get into the plains region or like mountain region.
Yeah.
It seems like as much as like there are a lot of places that aren't taken care of in Missouri, it seems like you kind of see that like that dilapidated sort of atmosphere faster.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Arizona, it's really hard to keep anything kind of not looking like that, just because people don't realize it, but the sun is brutal on everything. I mean, the sun bleaches everything it touches out here, and there's even a thing called sun rot. It's really, really difficult to keep anything not ravaged by the sun.
Yeah.
Just because we have so much sun, it is always sunny out here. And then, you know, it goes from super dry and super hot and super sunny to, oh crap, it's suddenly 100% humidity for like 30 minutes, and then it's, you know, back to baking, and then it's wet again, and then it's super dry again, and then super wet, and then super dry, you know, back and forth for 3 or 4 months. So things don't weather it.
Yeah, and I think for me it wasn't, I mean, maybe the weathering, just like a different kind of weathering, maybe gives me that vibe, but it just seems, it just kind of feels like there are these big open spaces where like nothing has happened in 50 years, you know, as
Oh yeah, for
just
sure.
like no kind of human attention, you know, has
Yeah.
existed, sort of thing, or just like, you know, these very like out in the middle of nowhere kind of poor areas. I don't know.
Yeah. That apparently that ghost is really creepy. Doom says. I think the banshee doing its screech attack is what he means.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good about her. Like I probably need to make the rest of them have this other frame of animation like this too. I actually need to check her scale against the rogue here, because she feels a little small probably.
Yeah. I mean, and you're not wrong. I mean, if you think about it, Arizona is one of the largest states, and I think a solid 70% lives within Phoenix. Which is, it's huge, obviously. It's the most populated state capital. But when you get outside of Phoenix, you have Tucson and Flagstaff and Yuma. In that, and I'm pretty sure in that order of population too. Maybe Yuma is higher than Flagstaff, I don't know. But everything in between that is Indian reservation, which they don't really, you know, they don't do a lot with. And the rest is just scrubland, desert, or owned by the federal government as, you know, nature preserves and stuff. So a lot of it really is kind of just untouched from anything in anyone. It's just what are you going to do with it? It's just desert.
Yeah.
I mean, even Phoenix can't really survive without, as Doom would say, without modern convenience. And it's true. Flagstaff could, Yuma could, but Phoenix could not exist as large as it is today without, you know, pulling from aquifers and, you know, air conditioning and all that.
Which makes it pretty amazing that, you know, how it got settled way back when.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure every city that has popped up in Flagstaff, in Arizona was, I mean, Flagstaff for sure was part of the rail line. I forget. I mean, I'm pretty sure so was Phoenix. It was part of a trade trail. Yuma was already settled by the Mexicans before we took it from them in the Mexican War. And I'm pretty sure Tucson was also part of a trade trail from Texas.
And I think maybe part of that kind of sadness is just like that vibe too, of just like this land was, you know, maybe it used to be inhabited, but we just kind of took it. Now it's like this weird in between of like, you know, settled by like there's some Hispanic population, some hippies, some just like I mean, there's, you know, like a lot of homelessness in why am I suddenly blanking out? I went through, like, in Colorado, we went to, like, we mainly stayed in Denver, but then we went snowboarding because Katie is from Minnesota and really likes to snowboard and ski. And then we came back through, why am I completely blanking on the, well, we went to Fort Collins on, like, the third day, and that's kind of weird because it's, it's suddenly sort of posh and cute, compared to Denver. What's the other town kind of like that everyone goes to? There's that triangle of I'm just completely
Vail?
blanking on. Huh?
Vail.
No, it's one of those like really obvious things that now my brain just isn't remembering.
Colorado Springs.
Yeah, like Colorado Springs has a lot of homelessness and that sort of thing. And I actually have a friend there who's he does social work, and so yeah, it was just like really strange, like seeing those kind of contrasts, because I mean there's homelessness in Springfield and things like that, but it's like it's a little more kind of maybe the poverty is more spread out or something. Like I don't know that there might be more poverty, or maybe there's less. Like I don't really know kind of statistically, but it seemed, and there's definitely like a poorer side of Springfield and things like that, but it just like nothing is in as stark contrast as when you get kind of farther into the west of the United States. To me, it's like a really surreal experience, for me at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might be. I've always felt like Cleveland and Akron had that problem too. Like all the cities in Ohio had that.
Yeah, and I've never really been to that area, like I've never been to Cleveland, or there's like like if you've watched The Wire, like I feel like I know a lot about Baltimore because of
The Wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just how it is in a lot of cities. I don't know about Springfield, but I mean, St. Louis has, I mean, a lot of stuff like that from what I saw of St. Louis. So
yeah,
I just think gentrification is a thing within cities. It's hard to tell that in Phoenix. Again, everything kind of just looks run down and broken.
Yeah.
It's like when you get to the place where the city is trying to keep the illusion of money, it's harder to tell. But most cities in Phoenix, they don't care. Like, we'll have to do this every two years, so we'll just let it look run down and dilapidated and put money into other things. This is all stuff that should be channeled into the Spire, by the way, bringing it back to Delver's Drop.
What do you mean exactly? Like the poverty and
not necessarily the poverty, just that kind of dilapidated, abandoned kind of feel. I don't know how you'd channel that, because I'm not obviously an artist or anything like that, but
yeah, it's it's a lot harder because we're inside of dungeons, and so everything's got to seem so architectural, and also like well the more like the more dilapidated we try to make things, it's like it becomes harder to execute on because it requires more textures and more like decals of like eroded areas on the floor and things like that. So it's actually harder to make a game, like it's very easy to make a game look plain and simple, which makes it look like like it's been kept up and cleaned.
Yeah. And
it becomes harder to try to make a game just look dilapidated. But yeah, it's something I think about a lot working on the game, is just the like how it's really hard to create the same sense of place inside of these dungeons as if we as if we were making a game with outdoor environments that could have like skyboxes or like more of a sense of place, or
right. If you maybe put it in Spire Watch, it might be easier to do it than keeping it like in this internal
Yeah, and
And
it's also just hard to like make enough assets to kind of like make something feel like it's truly a city, or you know, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
You know, we're having to keep things pretty limited just for cost and everything, but you know, just doing things like chairs and tables and stuff sometimes feels like a kind of a hassle, because it's you know, there's a lot of work that just goes into making the walls and things like that too.
Right. I would say, I don't know, leaks, puddles, but again, that's more art assets.
Yeah, and we're working on some of that stuff. I really want to have puddles and things, but then it gets a little complicated, because it's like when you step on them, they have to make the appropriate sound effect, and do they slow you down? But yeah, I want to have lots of like random puddly things, like, you know, everything from mud puddles to tar puddles to like sap and webs and things on the floor. But this sheet has a bunch of our objects, but you know, even take all of these objects and you don't even make like your typical kind of Final Fantasy town.
Right.
Because you just, you know, they have a lot more furniture inside of houses and shops and bars and things like that.
Right, but they also have a lot of money behind them.
Yeah.
If I win the lotto, I will I'll make
How often are you playing?
Not often. I'll make my own LLC publishing company and just funnel money. I'm serious. I mean, if I win the lottery, you guys are getting a big fat check.
Okay. Devil's Drop 3, privately funded by Visay.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Merry Christmas to all of you guys. So I think the lotto here is like 216 million, so
yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. You usually don't win the entire pot. Usually 3 or 4 people win and you split it, and then you get taxes.
Yeah.
And then the way it works is, for those of you who don't know, when you win the lotto, you can either get the lump sum, and it's less, because obviously they're not going to pay you 216. Well, it'd probably be more like $187 million, which is still $187 million to be fair. But if you took it in a lump sum, it'd probably be more like 150 million, which is again is still 150 million. Or you can go and have it spread out over the course of your lifetime, or 50 years or whatever. Then it'll be 186 million over the course of 50 years.
I would think, like, are they actually as good at investing as I would be? Like, you know, would it be better for me to take the money, try to reinvest it, and, you know, end up making even more money if I had it up front or whatever?
Yeah, who knows? Usually most people who win the lottery go bankrupt, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Oh, people and math.
Just people with money who usually don't have that much money. So, makes sense. It's a shame, but it's just how those things go. Doom says Vase's drop. No, I wouldn't put my name on anything. I don't even want my name in the credits. I didn't put my name in the credits even when I signed up for Kickstarter. I'm happy to be an outside observer as much as possible. I wouldn't be able to handle fame. I'd be too awkward with it. I'm just a guy. But, you know, fame does weird things to people. Who knows? I say that now because I don't have it, but maybe things would be different if I did have it. Who knows? I'd hope that I wouldn't change. How's that? When Baker wins, you know, millions of awards for Devil's Drop when it comes out, we'll ask him how he feels about it. Because I'm guaranteeing it's going to happen.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you for your omnipresent confidence.
I try, because I believe it. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I should share some with you. I should give you some of the confidence. But I'm serious. You guys are gonna blow people out of the water.
Well,
I play a lot of roguelikes.
I did start kind of realizing recently, like, I think we're actually doing more complex procedural generation than any other game I could think of just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's someone doing something insane out there, you know, like, but
if there is, I haven't seen it.
But yeah, like just like the like we're basically trying to get the game to design it as exactly as we would design it, rather than just like, here's some, you know, random stuff, just like make a room, because, you know, it can, right now we could just have it throw shit in a room, but that doesn't mean the room is good. So we're trying really hard to make it like very thoughtfully designed, and look nice aesthetically, and you don't usually get both of those either, which is probably why we're still, you know, working on the game. But
right. Like I said, I play a lot of roguelikes. I think I've played almost every roguelike that's come out that's not just... Nate says that I wouldn't give in to fame because I'm too good a dude, but Nate Drog doesn't know me that well, so she doesn't know that I'm actually a terrible human being. Then I fooled all of you.
oh, that's not true.
Baker has had the displeasure of beating me in person. He can tell you
No.
all the horrors. Not when I'm around, though, because I'm sure he wouldn't want to say anything bad about me to my face, but he can if he wants to.
No, Kyle is probably even more nice in person than he is online.
I don't believe that, but thank you.
Well, I think you bought me dinner and put up with me being basically like tired out of my mind, so.
I tried to buy all of you guys dinner every single night, and you wouldn't let me.
Well, you were also helping with our booth, so we felt like we owed you too.
You guys gave me a free PAX pass, so of course I was going to help at your booth. I felt bad that I wasn't doing enough helping at the booth. I felt like I was robbing you guys. It was terrible.
Yeah, PAX passes aren't that expensive, you know, in kind of business terms. Like, you know, when you start working on stuff like this, you realize like, oh, like what I used to think was a lot of money actually isn't much at all in the business world.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that we have a lot of money floating around. It's just like you realize things, the scale increases quite a bit.
Yeah. I appreciated the chance to go to PAX. Like I said, I'd love to go to PAX Prime, but I'll probably end up going to PAX South next year. That probably is going to happen.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that too.
Yeah, if you guys are going to go, I'd love to help at the booth again. Maybe
yeah,
this time
we could much more easily drive. I've probably told a million times how we drove to PAX Prime and it wasn't a very fun experience. But
yeah. Nate says I knew it. I don't know what she's saying I knew it about, but yeah, I've talked to my sister. She's gotten into cosplaying and stuff, so I was like, hey, you know, we could drive. And Doom says he should have gone to PAX, and you should have gone to PAX. You should, if PAX South is a thing. He's so nice, stand-up great dude. No, it's not true. If PAX South becomes a thing, Doom, you should definitely come. If the Pixelscopic guys are gonna go, you should definitely come.
I mean, whatever. Well, I would say like whatever big, you know, whichever PAX occurs when we actually launch the real game, we should all try to make it.
Oh, for sure.
Or, you know, whatever convention it happens to be, like our kind of launch booth.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
Matt, do you want to talk to Kyle for a few minutes?
No, of course he doesn't want to talk to me for a few minutes.
He's zoned out over there.
It's cool.
I need to take a quick break and drink something here.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll tell a story from PAX while you do that, and make Doom. I mean, Doom's heard the story before, but I'll make Doom super jealous. So, while Baker goes and gets a drink, like I said, I felt bad that I was not doing nearly as much as I thought I could for PAX. We had gone to this Japanese place, which was amazing in Boston. Waganayas, I think is what it was called.
The noodle place.
Yeah, super awesome. Along the way,
Japanese
though.
fusion.
Yeah, it was super great. Along the way, though, I had tripped and fallen on a street, like in the street, and like banged up my leg really bad. So that was a lot of fun.
Matt's in the middle of something, so he can't help us out right now.
That's okay. Go get your drink, Baker.
Well, I don't want to leave the stream, so I'm fine. I'll survive.
Baker, go get a drink. It's good. It's all good.
Okay, well you can talk for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'll talk with the lovely people. If you guys have questions, I can answer questions. While Baker's away and he can't be like, nope, that's too spoilery. So get in your spoilery questions now while Baker is gone. But I'll just keep talking about PAX. But yeah, hopefully, what's Matt's username on the PXS former? It's Matthew. His username is Matthew. I'm like 90%. I mean, I'm 100% sure it's Matthew. Is his username. The ghosts are coming along nice though. What do you guys think? He changed it. Well, he has Zilly Zephyr, which is his other username, but his official pixelscopic name is Matthew. I don't think he uses Zilly Zephyr anymore. I think that's his like incognito. I'm not really part of the pixelscopic team username. I don't know though. He could verify that, but he probably won't. Because he's sneaky like that, which is all good. But yes, Doom, shame on you for not coming to PAX. And Nate, if you're going to be at PAX South, you and I are going to go and burn San Antonio to the ground. The portal mouth of the ghost is a bit weird. Yeah, I'm going to say something to Doom or to Baker when he comes back because it looks rather suggestive, and I don't know if he recognizes it, or maybe I'm just a big pervert. Who knows? That's probably more the case of what it is. And yes, well, my plan for PAX South is getting an Airbnb. Did you want a peekaboo? Just post it in the thread. I saw you you updated that your drawing thread. Just put it in the thread. But yeah, I was thinking of getting an Airbnb so that instead of everyone having like a crappy hotel room, since I for sure will be driving to San Antonio. Welcome back, Baker.
Hey.
I was saying if we all do go to PAX South, I was thinking of getting an Airbnb place.
Yeah.
Since especially if we're going to be driving, we might as well have a place to store our car that we don't have to pay for all the time. So figure having a house. Plus, then, you know, instead of, I mean, going out on the town is a lot of fun, but it's really expensive, especially because they know that the, you know, cons are going on, so they jack up the prices. So I figured, you know, just having a place with a kitchen where we can cook just a huge meal and everyone, you know, can sit and unwind and not have to worry about waiting in lines and all that. I think it would just be a lot more fun if, you know, and then we could come back and if people were awake and alive enough, games and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'd bring my PS2 or some of my gaming systems, and we'd have internet that wasn't Wi-Fi from the well, presumably we would have internet. Who knows if the Airbnb would provide that, but
yeah.
And it would be cheaper. I think the Airbnb that I was looking at here when I had to move out of my apartment was $200 for a week. So, I mean, if everyone wanted to cash in on that, if there's like 4 or 5 people, that would quickly pay for itself for a 3-day weekend. Whereas I think I paid for like $600 for the 3 nights that I stayed at the hotel near the airport for PAX East. Mm-hmm. So definitely, you know, definitely worth it. I think I saw one that was like $50 a day. So paying for 4 days would still be cheaper, especially
with. I stayed in an Airbnb at well, I guess it was the PAX East.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. It seems like I was like, is that It seems longer ago.
It does. Yeah.
Uh,
In fact, I didn't even know what an
I mean,
Airbnb
it was like a year
was.
and a half, I guess, but.
I didn't even know what it was until you had mentioned it. I had never heard of them. So,
Mhm.
by the way, if you want to go back to the Banshee Ghost that you were doing,
Mhm.
you might want to change how the mouth looks a little bit. It looks like a vajay.
Okay.
Just a
I was-
little bit.
I was trying to make it look like an echoey sort of. Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. I mean, I can just do that sort of thing.
Not to get you away from doing the termite thingies.
I mean, I will be doing some kind of effect over the top that is like she's got waves of something coming out. So
Yeah, I know what you were going for.
Yeah.
But Doom was like, that looks weird, and I was like, yeah, kind of does. But yeah, I see what you were going for. Also, here's a question for you, Baker.
Mhm.
There you go. That's really good. I like the idea of like the sonic blast. So we've talked about before that there will be multiple paths in the game.
Mhm.
That's confirmed. We've talked. I mean, it's not confirmed as in it's 100% sure.
I have plans. We'll see if Kobe goes along with those plans.
Okay. So I guess would there be a way to show that off in the game? Like, let's say you do the first stage, and for those of you who haven't seen a lot of the game, the way you go down a level is a big drop gate. It's like this big portal with flashy lights. Would there be a way, perhaps, to show that you're on a different path, like change the drop aesthetic?
Oh well, that was the plan. Are you baiting me right now because you know
Yes.
things? Okay.
Yes, I am completely baiting you with that.
Yeah, I do like the idea of basically. Well, you wouldn't go to a different zone. You would still go from like zone.
Yeah,
2 to 3
I
and
just
so on,
meant
but
it would show you
the-
that you're on a different pathway through the drop.
Yeah, and so I guess the idea would sort of be like if you imagine this big mountain, if you go down one drop versus the other, you're kind of going down the east side of the mountain versus the west, at least by and large, and then you get to you go down the east side drop, and then you kind of meander around, and maybe you end up on the west side within a dungeon if you don't find the right way to go down in the kind of like the good narrative path and the bad narrative path kind of thing. So that's sort of the idea. Like certain things are less likely to generate that are story related if you go down the easier path is my goal. But it gets complicated.
Right. I mean, I've known about it for a long time, because Nathan leaked a little bit way back when, but I was asked to ask you, so I did. I've done my
Okay.
duty. And Nate was supposed to go to PAX Prime. I'd love to go to PAX Prime. One day I will go to PAX Prime for sure. Maybe just on my own, but my only concern is, like I said, I really didn't spend that much time with the booth because there just wasn't that much that interested me. So paying for a full 4 days, I don't feel would be, unless you guys were going to go to PAX Prime and needed help with the booth, I wouldn't feel like I would be getting my money's worth.
Yeah.
I guess, or I don't know, maybe another company. Because I'm looking to do more of this sort of stuff because I enjoy this kind of work. Even though I was late in getting the update to you, and I feel terrible about it. But yeah, I mean, this is the stuff I guess I wanted to do from college on. So I'm happy to get to do it. I'm glad for the opportunity. Thank you, Baker. You USians at your fancy cons. Yeah, I know. Europe doesn't have as much. Gamescom just ended, didn't it? That thing goes on for like 8 days. I'd love to go to Gamescom too. That'd be great. That's in Germany, for those of you who don't know. It's a cool time. But yeah, there's actually a couple YouTubers that live in Seattle that I talk to that do like food stuff. So if I did go to PAX Prime, I'd probably maybe do like a weekend pass and then meet up with them the rest of the days that I was in Seattle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I've actually been invited to do that by at least 2 of them. So
Nice. Just so you guys know, right now I'm working on little bugs. These would be called ankle suckers. I mean, they're basically kind of like fast little ticks that hop on you and try to suck your life away, or slow you down, or whatever. Like we've got a few different kinds. They're all going to be very similar. Like they'll probably share a similar body or something like that. At least similar body structure, same spine skeleton. So I'm gonna make a few of them here, just to take a break from the ghost for a second.
when is PAX South? It was in January this year, and I think it's going to be in January again. I don't know if it's even been confirmed that it's going to happen again. I imagine it's going to, but I think they're waiting to say anything about it until after PAX Prime, which is only in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So once they start talking about PAX South more, I'll definitely be checking it out. This San Antonio is only like a 10-hour drive, and I have driven for longer on trips. I drove from Ohio to Phoenix in 2.5 days, when it's supposed to take like 3.5, because we never stopped. I think I've told this story before about getting pulled over in New Mexico by cops. Fun time. New Mexico cops do not screw around. Europe's indie scene is not comparable at all. I mean, you have Vlambeer, that's in Netherlands, and Paradox is in Sweden, and I don't know if you'd call them indie or not. I don't know what you'd consider them. But I mean, they're kind of a publisher and a game producer. The people who make EVE Online are based out of Iceland. I guess, I mean, if you consider Iceland part of Europe, I think they consider themselves part of Europe. And the people who do the Endless series are based out of France. Is Devolver not American? I thought Devolver was US. Or are they Polish? Doom saying Devolver, but I don't know where they're based out of.
Yeah, I thought they were US based too, but they might have originated somewhere else and just have a pretty strong presence in the US.
Devolver Digital. No, they're based out of Austin, Texas. They have 2 locations. Yeah, I thought I was pretty certain they were US. I got to meet a couple of them at PAX East.
Yeah, they seem pretty American just in kind of their attitude and everything. So, I mean, just kind of like casual and...
Yeah. They're super cool people. I mean, they're a publishing company, obviously. They don't make games, but they seem pretty committed to publishing indie games.
Yeah, they're getting pretty involved. Like, yeah, but, I mean, I think they've at least hired developers to make games for them. But yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
If they probably don't have any in-house development staff.
No, they do not.
Because I know they basically made this original platformer sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know much about it or anything, but
Do you know what it's called?
I don't remember now. It was some silly name.
I mean, a lot of the companies that they work with are non-US.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at their list of games. They worked with Crow Team, which makes Serious Sam, which I'm pretty sure is they're Croatian. I thought they were Polish, but they're actually Croatian. Lambert, like I said, they're the Netherlands. They worked for Hotline Miami, which was Denmark. I'm pretty sure. Swedish, sorry. One of the Nordic companies. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, they're not as big named, I guess, as a lot of the American indie companies. The guy, Doom's Grand Masterpiece. Doom's gonna make a video game apparently, and it's gonna rock the indie scene of Europe. I'll play Doom's game. I'll never be able to beat it. Isn't Venom Sucker a positive thing? I would say so, yes.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that as I wrote it, because I was looking at our list again, realizing we might want to add a couple ideas in here.
Yeah. Yeah, any video game that Doom makes is going to be brutal. But I've talked to Doom a lot about video games, and he knows his stuff. So I'm sure if he's serious about making a video game, then it will be a lot of fun to play.
I would play it.
Yeah. For sure.
Doom, we are all eagerly awaiting your masterpiece.
Yeah. Mason says he'd play it. Like I said, I would never be able to beat it knowing Doom, but I'd play it. I'd play it a lot. I only have one more thing to do in Isaac for character stuff. Just have the boss rush for the Lost, and I got super close yesterday. I think I'm almost about to do it, and I will be super excited. And then Afterbirth is going to come out and erase all my progress. You are super talented, Baker, by the way, Nadrog says.
Oh, thank you.
And he is. Baker, I mean, the entire Pixelscopic team is insanely talented. Not just Baker, but Baker for sure is super talented. They are all very tight in what they do. And it's actually, and you know, I'm gonna gush a little bit here over you, Baker. So you'll, I guess, have to accept it, because I know.
I'll just bleep it all out. I'll mute you. You'll talk for a while and be like, man, why does this say so quiet? Oh, I had Skype on mute.
I had muted. You know, Midwestern humility and humbleness aside, I've been following Pixelscopic since their very first stream, and I've talked with obviously with Baker quite a lot, and Kobe not quite as much, but I've talked to Kobe and Nathan and all the guys, and I think a lot of the problems that I have with a lot of indie companies is a lot of the people, and I don't want to say this to throw anyone specifically under the bus. And Doom mentioned a Wizard's Lizard because he knows that it'll provoke my ire. And I'll never mention a Wizard's Lizard on this game, because I know we're supposed to be constructive about other people's video games, and I can't be constructive about a Wizard's Lizard. Not one bit. But being on constructive statements, Baker and all the guys actually played video games, and they know video games, and they know what makes a good video game, and they know what makes a bad video game, because obviously they've played video games all their lives. So I think that's what sets Pixelscopic as a company apart from a lot of other indie game companies, in that they didn't just come in with we want to make video games. It's, we want to make a good video game, and here's how we're going to make a good video game. And you know, people will say, well, it's taking them a long time, and I understand that that's a criticism that people are going to have. But it's not one that I have, because I mean, I'm in a position to see why it's taking time, which I guess some people aren't necessarily in. But I think if people realized that it's taking a long time, not because you guys are slacking, but because you guys want to make every single aspect and facet of the game as good as it possibly can be, I think they'd be a lot more understanding and even-handed on the criticism.
Well, and I think maybe to our detriment a little bit, like we're pretty kind of forward-thinking in terms of, well, forward-thinking is the wrong term, but more just like we try to future-proof a lot. Like we've done a lot of work to make it become easier and easier for us to like quickly distribute the game to Mac, or to prepare for the Android ports, or things like that. Down to having like multiple resolution systems. So, and yeah, I mean, like a lot of companies use Game Maker or something like that, which is pretty awesome. But when you want to then publish on like even more platforms, you've got to go through a long like porting phase, and either you take a while to get your game on a different platform, or there are differences, or it's just like lots of hassle and actually costs more money to do that. So I guess in a lot of ways we've made the primary kind of development slower, but then like hopefully things will kind of speed up afterward for like ports and maybe getting onto consoles at some point and that kind of thing. But then also, planning for making games after this. Like we're kind of, as we go, building new things into the engine rather than just like bolting extra stuff onto this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people kind of care about that stuff, but
I think it's something that they should care about if they don't. Doom, Mason says you guys are one of the most transparent companies, and it's true. You guys have never shied away with answering anything.
I'm gonna have to get secretive with the story and stuff, probably more than I have
sure.
been.
But I just mean like, well, what are you guys up to? Well, this is what we're doing, and this is why it's taking so long. And one thing, and Doom reminded me, and this is really important. Having been able to play the game in every version that's come out, one thing is abundantly clear. Like starting out, we none of us knew each other, and it was kind of this slowly growing community, which is great. I love the community that's already developed around Delver's Drop, as small as it may be, and I'm hoping to see that community grow. Hey Mike, how's it going? Sucker mobs sound OP. They sound awesome. But having seen the game go from the pre-alpha build to the alpha build to the next one to the next one to the next one, and just in seeing where you and Kobe specifically, because I mean you guys were and I guess probably still are like the core of Pixelscopic. The lighting system I think really showed me your design philosophy. It was in the pre-alpha, the lighting system was just kinda there, and then in the next one it was a little bit better, and then the next one, I know Kobe was like, I don't like how the lighting system is, I'm completely reworking it, and then it came out amazing, and then 2 more builds after that, Kobe was like, okay, I now see where the lighting problem is going wrong in these builds, I'm just going to go back to brass tacks and change it again and rebuild it. And it shows, and I guess it also works in how you guys are doing your level layout now, where, well, this was our old system, this part wasn't working, this part wasn't working. Is the Angle Sucker mob 3'2"? No, it's smaller than that. They're smaller than me, Mike. So you guys are very modular in your approach, at least from an outside perspective looking in, where you guys are really good at assessing what is working and what isn't working, and finding a way to make what is working stay within the confines of changing things that weren't working. And I think, I mean, and yeah, that's a slow process, and it certainly has slowed things down. I mean, just being fair-handed in all the statements. But as you said, you guys are really good about future-proofing, and I think it really shows that you guys are that forward-thinking. Where it's like, okay, how do we make this better so that when we get all the systems in place, it'll just snap in and take off. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think you guys have done a good job in doing that. I don't know how you guys feel, but as someone who is invested monetarily in this game and emotionally as well, because I want the game to succeed because I like you guys. At this point, I mean, I already feel like I got my money's worth. So Now it's just you guys deserve to succeed because the game is good and what you guys want to do is good. There's my gushing.
Well, and I guess something that people may not think about is like we're trying to, you know, we don't have like much in the way of tools. We use Spine, we use Tiled, or at least used to until we started doing kind of full random generation. But you know, we like basically anytime we're having to build a new feature into the game, we build a new spreadsheet, like more or less from scratch, and to design it to handle everything and design it to read all this stuff in. Like we don't have any kind of like WYSIWYG tool or anything along those lines, and I wish we did, and you know we probably should for as long as we've kind of been in development of all these things. But I think you know, short of having something like that, like we take the time to try to put in descriptions of like every property in our spreadsheets, because at some point we're going to make the spreadsheets publicly available so people can mod the game. Like, you know, since we don't have WYSIWYG tools or like an editor or anything, we're just going to basically put like everything except the source code of the game out there, and you know, maybe someday we'll publish the source code or something like that, like down the road when we, you know, after we've done some sequels or whatever. But yeah, so it's, you know, there's like I'm always kind of thinking ahead to like, okay, well, we could kind of slap this together, but then, you know, when it comes to modding, like did we just make it like 10 times harder for people because we weren't really thinking ahead?
Right. Doom, by the way, says the perch sucker should look more like Glint.
Doesn't not look very gold? I guess it's
no,
a little bit dull.
make it more angular and sharp edges, kind of like how the Glint coins
make it look,
are.
I see. So you could mistake it for a coin?
Exactly, yeah, I think that's what he was going for. Also, I like the Skull Sucker. It reminds me of a Skulltula from Zelda, which I'm sure is what you were going for.
Yeah, I feel like the Zelda spiders changed a few times, and now I never know what they, if they have one eye or a skull on their back, or like, or not, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
the Skulltula is dark as shit at least in Ocarina of Time.
Maybe I should make it look a little bit less skull-like.
No, I like it.
Because yeah, I don't want to riff too much on Zelda. You know, I'm always like trying to riff just a tiny little bit, but not,
I think you've got it. I think yours is enough of an homage that people aren't going to think, oh well, he just ripped this from Zelda. There are other enemies like that in other video games. I think people will understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with Doom. You should definitely make the purse sucker look a little bit more like money in the game. A little bit more squarish. I know it's not quite in the theme of the other suckers who are very much like beetles.
I think that's fine. Making it like I'm trying to vary the shape a little bit. So you know, I might make the ankle sucker just look more round. I was trying to make the soul sucker look kind of like the like a bottle. I guess it looks a little bit like a firefly too, which is kind of cool.
You should definitely make the lung sucker look more like a pair of lungs.
And I think, see, some of this is like old ideas of mine, and I was trying to remember like what was the lung sucker supposed to be. Like probably it drains your stamina, but I'm not sure now, since like stamina and spirit is kind of the same thing.
Right.
Based on how we've sort of changed the lore and some stuff with the idea behind the sorcerer and all of that. I'm not sure if lung sucker makes sense anymore, so I might cut that one and try to come up with something else, like an elemental sort of thing, or so yeah, I don't know if you guys have any ideas, because these are going to be like if they all use the same skeleton, like as long as they don't have tons of unique motion. I mean, we could make a couple that fly around. Like I probably ought to make a couple that fly, so maybe like a more aggressive version of the heart sucker.
Doom says that you should make the lung sucker drain special, and I agree.
The lung sucker. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I think that was the original plan, but now like I don't know if Soul Sucker would do the same thing, or because I had toyed with the idea at one point of having separate meters for stamina and spirit, or sanity or something like that. If we ever did do like a sanity meter, or it would be the same thing as like a confusion meter, basically. Like if your sanity or like your morale or whatever we call it is drained, then you sort of lose control of the character for a short period of time, and they just do random stuff. So that would probably be what a soul sucker would do, I guess.
What you should have, since there is armor, you should have one that just like chews on armor and make it look like a stag beetle.
A shield sucker.
Yeah, like a shield sucker, and like a rhinoceros beetle. You know, the thing with just the massive mandibles. They're really cool looking. I like bugs. I like insects. True story. My mother has a degree in biology, and she focused on ants and bees. So we have I'm sure she still has tons of books on ants and bees and, your social, which is, hive mentality critters. So I got to read a lot of those sorts of things growing up. I've always been fascinated with insects. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, it was interesting to me to find out that Pokemon was originally based on kids in Japan having these basically, well, kind of like rhinoceros beetles, right? That they would have battle like basically like a
well, the creator of Pokemon was really into just going out in nature, and it's one of those.
Well,
I guess
people called him like Professor Bug in Japanese or something like that, right?
Yeah, the lung sucker, there's a dash meter. Can the lung sucker go for that?
Well, yeah, the dash meter is the same thing as the special meter.
The special bar, yeah. But yeah, he would go and collect bugs and fight rhinoceros beetles, the stag beetles. And that's where Pokemon started. Well, I mean, the whole thing with Pokemon was he wanted to have a video game that channeled like youthful adventure.
Yeah, and it kind of didn't it start like quite a bit just from the social aspect?
Yeah, a little bit. I like Pokemon a lot even as an adult because I think. I mean, obviously it's not so in depth on this, but I think you could extrapolate on the idea that it's kind of like a coming of age journey. Because each game you start off, you live at home, and this is this big pomp and circumstance where you have to travel around the world and experience new things. And a lot of people really like to like darken up the history because they're like, oh well, there's this big war, and really it's just like this post-apocalyptic nightmare world, and it's so isn't that. It's the idealization of a childhood to adulthood.
Yeah, and at some point they start running out of ideas, so they add in like, oh, there was a war in our history, but But people like to come up with the kind of overarching, oh, what's the history of this world, or we do that all the time.
I mean, it's a cool thought experiment, but it's just so, I don't know. I'm a big nerd, so it's really obvious that the idea was really supposed to be like lighthearted journey sort of thing. Because Nade likes the Soul Sucker, by the way. I think it's pretty cute.
What's that?
She likes the Soul Sucker, Nade Drog 13. Yeah, obviously you guys should make a Pokemon game. Yeah, Mason says, let's be cruel to animals and make them fight each other. And yeah, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of a rooster, a cockfighting aspect to it, but no one dies. Nothing dies in Pokemon. I mean, yeah, there's a graveyard, but none of them died fighting, and they make a really important note on that. They died because they got old. Nothing. They faint. You're not killing them. You're just battling. And yeah, obviously, again, you can go the PETA route. Oh, there's just these terrible things. Well, it sounds cool. I really don't like pitting bugs against each other. Always makes me feel bad. I agree.
Dark Pokemon remake.
And I'm sure
Nolan's Pokemon.
I would watch it. Only because I think Christopher Nolan is a brilliant director. I don't think I've seen a single movie that Nolan has made that I disliked. Memento is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit way back when I saw it in college, I guess.
I watched it with my sister and her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was not happy. He really didn't like how it ended. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of "it's all a dream" kind of endings, but I didn't feel like it was that tastelessly done in Memento. So
I don't think Memento had an all a dream ending, did it?
No, I guess statutes of limitations on spoilers. If you guys have not seen Memento,
It's been a long time for me.
it's been a long time since it's been out, but I'm going to spoil the reveal, so if you don't want to hear it, mute your mic. I'm going to wait 30 seconds here so that you guys can do that, because I understand that Twitch has a delay. So I'm watching the clock here. I'm gonna wait till it passes over to 46. By the way, I watched The Machinist, which was Christian Bale, and that was a really weird movie, and I liked it, but I also really disliked it. So if you guys ever want to watch The Machinist, it's on Netflix. Just be prepared for a pretty disappointing ending. It's pretty bleak. But Christian Bale, amazing actor, really good. All right, I think I've given 30 seconds. So the Memento, the way that ends is, they tell the story about this diabetic who kills his wife because of the insulin injections, because he has retrograde amnesia. His wife is diabetic, and he keeps forgetting that he gave her the insulin shot, so he kills her with an insulin overdose. They tell the story of this guy, and at the end it turns out that it's the main character who is actually this guy, and he killed his wife. And if you haven't seen Memento, it's all about, this assassin going around killing people linked to who he thinks murdered his wife, but it's actually this corrupt cop who's using this amnesiac person to murder people that he doesn't like or who he feels are like bad people in the community. So that's the reveal. It turns out that he's actually the guy who killed his wife, and because he has amnesia, he's actually just this dupe, and ends up killing.
He can't, and that's why he tattoo stuff on his body.
He tattoos names and things on his body, and really, Memento is really one of my favorite movies. I really love it. And they're saying American Psycho is really good. I've read the book. I haven't seen the movie. That's on my list of things to watch. That's also on Netflix. And Baker pointed out Lawless last week, and I watched that the day that he mentioned it. And Lawless was really good. I'm not a big fan of Shia LaBeouf, but he did pretty good in that movie. I enjoyed it. It's also on Netflix. Was a lot of fun. Pretty dark, pretty gritty.
Yeah.
But was pretty good. And Doom and I were talking about this before, but Tom Cruise is an amazing actor. People give him a lot of crap for being crazy, and he is crazy, but he really is a good actor. And from everything that people have said, he seems like a generally nice person, despite kind of being a lunatic. Yeah, chat says American Psycho. Everyone's saying it's really good. The book was good. I also really need to see Wolf of Wall Street. That's another movie that's on my list of things to watch.
Yeah, I think Kobe said it was pretty good, but also pretty dark and just he basically said if I watched it, I shouldn't watch it with my fiance, kind of thing.
Yeah, she's not so into the dark stuff.
Yeah.
I am. I like that sort of stuff. I like dark comedies. Another movie that I really like is Dead Poets Society.
I saw that a long time ago, and I do not remember a single thing about it now.
I saw it in the 5th or 6th grade, which is not the time you should be watching Dead Poets Society. They also made us watch Schindler's List in the 5th grade, which is also not a movie to make 5th graders watch, by the way. Mason says Tarantino. I have seen every Tarantino film, and I like each and every single one of them. I'd actually be really hard pressed. Yeah, Hateful Eight. I am super excited for Hateful Eight. I don't know which is my favorite Tarantino movie. I know Jackie Brown is my least favorite Tarantino movie. And it wasn't bad. It just, I don't know. I wasn't. I mean, I still liked it, but I definitely didn't like it as much as I liked like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Or Fiction.
And I liked Kill Bill a lot for a while. I don't know that I'm that interested in going back and watching it anymore.
I have watched Kill Bill maybe 20 or 30 times.
Yeah.
True story. I really love Kill Bill 1 and 2. I think I watched Kill Bill 2 last week, and I think I watched Kill Bill 1 as well last week, but I don't remember if I watched that one as well. He's inspired so much by old westerns that he got, Laura Cohen to do some of his movie scores. This is amazing. Inglourious Basterds I really liked Inglourious Basterds. I think Django Unchained might actually be my favorite. I think each film that he comes out with quickly becomes my favorite.
Yeah, Django Unchained, I liked it, kind of. I don't know, there's just something weird about it for me. Like I really liked Leonardo DiCaprio in it. Like but then
He
like
did great.
I almost wish that he would just make a serious movie. Like I feel like Django Unchained would have been much better if it were just like a if it didn't have the cartoon violence basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of Tarantino's older works had a lot more serious violence.
Yeah.
Django could have been 30 minutes shorter.
That's probably true too. Like that. Well,
yeah,
the ending just kind of drags on. Like it, basically just becomes like, how is he going to torture and kill like every last person there?
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed that. I agree. It's pretty long, but.
Yeah, it got to I guess it got to a point where it's kind of dumb, over the top violence humor was too predictable.
Yeah.
Like I did probably giggle a little bit when he shoots the wife and she just like flies backwards through the door, even though he just shoots her with a pistol.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was like a pretty
good night, Mitts, whatever.
It was a very good
night, just boom.
visual humor kind of thing, but still, like I could have. I don't know. It's just like he has such a weird combination of like humor and seriousness and good acting and intentionally bad acting that like I mean, in a way it makes his work richer, but I wish, like, I feel like he could do so much better if he just made like a serious movie.
Yeah, and From Dusk Till Dawn isn't a Tarantino film. Just Mason mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn. It's not a Tarantino film. It's a Rodriguez film. Yeah. Tarantino helped with it, but he didn't write the screenplay or anything like that. Also a good movie though. Kind of goofy though, especially by the end it gets pretty silly, but yeah, I mean I think the cartoony violence really started coming around during Kill Bill, but I think in Kill Bill 1, and because Kill Bill 2 has a lot less silly violence. Kill Bill 1 with the crazy 88 fight was really, really goofy and over the top and silly, but it kind of was paying homage to, kung fu films.
Right, and I might have said this I've probably said this like 3 times on the stream before if we've ever talked about Kill Bill, but I kind of like that, I liked that the first Kill Bill was like, kind of a wire-fu, crazy kung fu movie, and Kill Bill 2 is a straight-up western.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has everything from being buried alive to like showdowns, like these, kind of fingers twitching, fast draw showdowns, and the first one doesn't. So it's interesting that it's like, it's a modern, like a modern setting and all of that, but it has these 2 kind of historic B-movie, so to speak, film types, or just like, kind of very genre-esque movie genres in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kill Bill started off, originally it was supposed to just be a complete spaghetti western. That was the idea, and then more kung fu started getting put into it. and that's, from what I've heard, that's why he went to Django Unchained, because Django Unchained is his spaghetti western.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the mix of the kung fu and the western, because I think there's a lot of parallels and overlap in those two genres. Like, kung fu is the western films of Asia.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean, what we see as a kung fu film is there's a lot of, delineation
and there's
in what an actual kung fu film is in China and Japan.
Well, and a lot of samurai movies, weren't they inspired by westerns, or is it the other way around?
Both. I forget the exact term, but basically, in Japan, the samurai films are usually set in the Sengoku Jidai, which is like their huge 100-year civil war. There's actually a term for that style of movie that Kurosawa created. But Kurosawa took a lot of stuff from the westerns that were being produced in the U.S. And then the western movies saw how Kurosawa had taken it and warped it and changed it, and that's what really influenced a lot of, like, Dirty Dozen, Fistful of Dollars, and the man without a name sort of trope kind of came out from Kurosawa. Like with Yojimbo, really kind of put it forward. So they've definitely shared a lot over the years, which is great.
Yojimbo is the man, it's been years since I watched any Kurosawa, and I like Seven Samurai, but it's
so long.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem as, like, yeah, it's a long movie, but it kind of drags in the middle a little bit. Like, I could have done without the love story stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a really good movie, but I think I like Yojimbo a lot more, but it also has this point where it drags in the middle. Like the point where he slows it down. Like, I think my modern sensibility just wants even the slow down part to be a little faster paced, and so now it just, instead of just feeling like more slow and contemplative, it feels somewhat draggy.
I have a problem with that with a lot of old movies too.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cultural thing between that generation and this generation, with how they viewed the medium of movies, because a lot of those movies had a lot of inspiration from the old radio classics. This is all stuff that I got to learn from in communication classes, how the transition from a radio drama to a TV drama and then to a movie drama kind of transitioned. So that's where there is that bit of slowness, because in the radio dramas you had, a bit that you did for 20 minutes every day for, it was a serial. Even back then they called them TV serials. And you could definitely tell the inspiration from the radio to the TV was really strong in, like, the 40s and 50s. Which is obviously, I think Seven Samurai came out in 57. I'm probably getting the date wrong, but close. It was after World War II, but long enough after World War II that Japan and U.S. relations weren't too strained any more than they could have been. So yeah, close to that. But it shows. And I can't watch. I mean, my father is a huge movie fan, and he was even growing up. So I watched a lot of the old classics, and I just fell asleep through so many of them. Because there is that kind of, like, okay, here's the beginning, ramp up, and then sudden, okay, here's something completely out of nowhere that kind of just, like, halts the action, and then it goes away, and then here's the action again. It's just like, can we could do without this lull. But the lull is there to kind of partition, which you don't see nowadays because movies are one long narrative, because we've adapted to that kind of viewing mentality.
Yeah, well, there used to also be like even just intermissions in long movies.
Yeah, very true. Seven Samurai has one.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I had forgotten.
Yeah, I forced my sisters and their boyfriends to, well, the one that lives in Holland had seen it at least once or twice. His father was actually the ambassador to Hungary for the Netherlands, and he also worked on some Oceania League that the Netherlands had with Japan and South Korea and a bunch of stuff. So he actually, well, I guess he'll almost be my brother-in-law here soon enough. He actually lived in Japan, in Tokyo, for a little while. So he had all that, he has that influence. So he didn't have to get Kung Pao 2 is finally happening. They've said that for years. Which is, it's pretty good. As long as it's not Kung Fury. Screw that movie, it's stupid. I'm making an unpopular statement now. I hated it. It was dumb. I don't know if you've seen Kung Fury.
I laughed hysterically through the whole trailer, so I still want to see it, but I'm.
Have a good day, Nate Drug. Thanks for coming. I'll see you tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, it's 5 o'clock, so we should probably start wrapping up.
Should wind it down. So yeah, if you get a screen, don't forget to get a screen cap before we close.
Do we want to get the this ghost maybe, or what?
Yeah, let's. Can you get the ghosts and the bugs together in like a nice 2-line thing?
Yeah, we could do something like that.
I know Mike, who's Classy Dicks TV in chat. I know he really liked Kung Fury. I mean, I know most people really liked Kung Fury, but it was just too dumb for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I don't know if you've ever heard of Dr. McNinja.
I feel like someone told me about it, but I don't really know.
I've probably talked to you about it before. It's a comic, an online comic. It's actually in its final. Kyle, I do have a sense of humor, Mike. I do. But Dr. McNinja has a very similar kind of absurdist style of humor, and I like absurd humor. I don't know, Kung Fury just felt like it did it wrong at every turn. I mean, there was a couple parts that I really chuckled at. I won't say that there weren't, like, the entire movie. Kung Fu Hustle is a great movie, yes.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up, because I really like Kung Fu Hustle.
Love Kung Fu Hustle, one of my favorites.
I still need to get Katie to watch that, because I think she would like it.
I'm sure, it's great.
You have to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
That it's definitely not serious, but I really like the just kind of heartwarming. Like, it actually is, like, has a pretty good emotional sort of storyline.
I agree.
Like, it's very redemptive.
I mean, I think a lot of people, because I went and saw it in theaters, and all my friends were like, "Yeah, we're gonna watch this really awesome, action." No one knew anything about it, because this was, back even before the internet came into its full being of like super spoilery stuff. All of us knew that it was just a kung fu movie, obviously by the title. And I love kung fu. I did karate for a really long time. I really like martial arts stuff because I was a martial artist, I guess. And everyone walked out of the theater like really disappointed, except for me. Everyone's like, "Oh, that was too silly, and it didn't take itself serious, and it's all this humorous fight stuff, like when the lady with the tiger scream, the landlady, who's in the muumuu and flip-flops and stuff." And it's great. I was laughing the entire movie, and everyone was like, "Oh, I can't believe it was this comedy. We didn't want to go see a comedy. We wanted to see a serious, gritty action movie." And I'm like, "You guys have no idea what you're talking about. That was the best thing." And then they're like, "We're gonna go watch some other movie," and I was like, "I'm gonna go watch it again." I saw it twice that day because everyone else was just so upset they wanted to like watch another movie to like get it out of their mind. I was like, "No, you guys go into your own thing. I'm gonna go see this again." I've probably watched I have it on DVD. I've bought it. Like,
I do too. I think.
I think I've seen Kung Fu Hustle maybe 60 or 70 times.
Jeez, that's more than even the amount that I rewatch movies.
I especially when I was living in Ohio, I would just put it on for background noise.
Yeah.
So I mean, I haven't sat down and watched it 60 or 70 times, like fully and complete, like no other actions are going on. But you know, I didn't have cable, so whatever DVDs I had, I got to watch a bunch, and it was one of the few ones. So I love that movie. I really I think anyone who likes kung fu movies should watch that one. But yeah, Kung Fury. The one part that I really liked is like he goes back in time, and this lady is there, and he's like, "What time is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's the Viking era," and he's like, "That would explain the laser raptors."
Yeah.
And I don't know why that one line like really got me. I actually laughed out loud to that one. It was just it was so goofy that I couldn't just be like, I don't know, upset that the movie was really disappointing up to that point.
Yeah.
And the other part with Thor, I really liked that. Like, let's call Thor just like this gigantic muscled guy. It just pops out and he's like, "Oh, I will, teleport you back in time," and just, like bulges his muscles and shoots lightning out of him.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's good. That's all right. Like all the stuff with Hitler and Triceracop, it was just, and the hacker guy. I was like, this is just too like. There's a point where cheese gets too far, and I really felt Kung Fury hit over the line on a lot. Like it was too intentional. But I see why people like it. Yeah. I don't judge anyone for liking it. I can understand where people are enjoying it. So. And hopefully they'll make another movie, and Big Trouble in Little China is, I wouldn't say it's my #1 film, but it's really close. That is a great movie. I'm trying to think of what my favorite movie is. It's really hard to like decide. There's just so many good movies I've seen. I'd feel bad saying like Dark Knight Rises, even though I really like that movie. That's the one with the Joker, right? Or is that just the Dark Knight?
Yeah, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, the Dark Knight. Dark Knight Rises was okay.
Yeah, I wasn't as big of a fan of the Dark Knight Rises. Like
it was too long.
Huh?
Too long. That movie could have been 30
minutes. It was like every 5 seconds I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It was just like he wanted to wrap up his trilogy. He tried to cram too much into it. Just like everything from healing the broken back to just and how he kind of merged all these separate Batman storylines. Because I was getting like really into Batman at the time and kind of I think before I saw the movie, I basically read the entire kind of the Nightfall series, which is pretty old, and like it wasn't that bad, but it was it's definitely not a contemporary storyline. Like I wouldn't say that the whole storyline with Bane and everything was even all that interesting. Like some interesting stuff happens afterward when Azrael or whatever his name is becomes the new Batman and goes kind of crazy and goes on a rampage and all this stuff. But
yeah,
like it's not like the best Batman story ever. But
I think it would have been cool if they had kind of done, and Arkham Asylum, or I guess it's Arkham Knight is the final game in that trilogy, kind of did it with, not Tim Drake. Tim Drake became... was it Tim Drake that became Nightwing?
No, it's Dick Grayson becomes
Nightwing. Tim Drake becomes the Red Hood. Red Hood.
Yeah.
I think it would have been cool if he had gone that route. I mean, I watched...
Yeah, actually, that probably would have... Something like that with actually replace Bane with Red Hood and remove Talia al Ghul, and actually that makes a much better movie.
It's called Battle for the Cowl, by the way. Doom said what it was that you were thinking of after Battle for the Cowl.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I read that graphic novel is pretty good. I actually I really like the animated Under the Red Hood. I think, and I haven't, for whatever reason, I haven't finished that graphic novel. I actually haven't started it and haven't finished it yet. But I think Under the Red Hood is actually is kind of a better story than the Battle for the Cowl.
Well, I think it would have been really cool to have taken the Joker from the second movie, because he just kind of appears and then disappears. And I understood they did that because they wanted to respect the dead.
Well, I've heard people say that when Scarecrow, I don't remember his actual name, but when Scarecrow is basically having holding court and sort of deciding who's guilty and who's innocent in Gotham City, that was originally written to be the Joker. But then when Heath Ledger died, they're like, okay, well, which actor kind of from the cast can we have take this minor-ish role in the third movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate that Heath Ledger died. He was amazing as Joker, but I really do think Under the Red Hood would have been a lot better way, because I mean, there's this kind of overarching, and I know we're kind of going over time, but the Nolan Batmans kind of talk about surveillance and how the police force is working in a society, and how crime works in a society, and what role this vigilante has. He really took it down from this mythos to as realistic as he possibly could. That's why we didn't get bad guys like the Penguin or
Poison Ivy
Poison Ivy or Killer Croc or Mr. Freeze or the Riddler. By the way, I think the Riddler would have been an amazing villain in the Nolanverse, a serial killer type, super genius
that does
killer.
Seem kind of like a Nolan character, like this guy who's obsessed with the guy who in Memento is tattooing himself, this sort of
I
obsessive.
Totally think if they had channeled Memento into a Riddler character, it could have been Dr. Crane, that's his name, the Scarecrow. It would have been amazing, and I understand why they didn't do it, but I don't know. I feel like there was a lot better characters. And Hush, I've talked about Hush before. I think Hush would have been really cool as a villain in the Nolan. I think that would have really worked. So what they really needed to do for the final act was have a parallel against Batman, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, I could see that. Sort of who is his ultimate villain, and the answer is probably himself to some degree, if you don't say the Joker.
Right, but the Joker is the ultimate villain for Batman because the Joker is everything that Batman is, but tries not to be. And and there have been numerous studies on the Joker-Batman dynamic, especially after the Dark Knight came out. A lot of people picked up on it. But I think that's why people like the Joker so much, is that he kind of is... I guess this is kind of Freudian, but, the id, super ego, and ego, where, there's this... The Joker is the id. It's this... The Joker isn't great because he's a great character. The Joker is great because of what he actually stands for, which I guess you could kind of say he doesn't stand for anything, which makes him so different than Batman. Lex Luthor, greatest villain. That's all I can say, is a big
I actually like any Superman villain. I've never been that much of a fan of the Superman franchise in general, but it just seems like all the Superman villains are really weird, because it comes at, you're basically okay, well, this is an alien god among men, who could possibly be his nemesis? And a really smart dude is the answer. Actually, Batman is a better opponent for Superman than anyone else.
I'm not looking forward to Batman versus Superman. I am going to watch it.
Yeah, I think they're gonna screw it up. Actually, Suicide Squad looks pretty cool. I don't really...
I disagree.
Well,
I'm so completely disinterested. I'm not even uninterested.
well, they are kind of, they're going a little too dark with all of those movies, I think, in general, because I think they're making the mistake of like, well, we have to do something different from Marvel to attract more people. It's like, no, actually, Marvel has figured out the perfect formula. Like, the entire family can go watch it. Like, every kid loves Batman, and possibly Superman. Like, you know, don't make it the darkest, nastiest thing possible. But, like, I don't know, something about, I think the original Suicide Squad trailer I thought looks pretty cool. The new one was a little bit like, you know, like, basically kind of making Harley Quinn look like a stripper all the time, and it's like I think they're gonna go too far with it. But I'm curious. Like, I think it's cool that they're, you know, pulling this more obscure comic book franchise kind of out of their pocket, and having characters like Harley Quinn, and
it's their attempt to beat Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're going to fail spectacularly.
Well, it's yeah, I mean, but I don't think that movie is competing with Guardians of the Galaxy, though, because, like, it's, you know, it's so much darker.
Well, and that you summarized it pretty well. DC does not, and I actually talked about this with Doom the other day. DC does not understand why Marvel is doing so well. They do not understand it.
And I can understand the motivation to try to do something stylistically different, to try to capture a different audience or whatever, but, I mean, R-rated movies never do as well as PG-13 movies, just by the numbers, because fewer people can watch them, and, you know, parents won't take their kids and whatever, but like, I think back in my younger days, I would have been, like, very kind of against the general, like, Marvel Studios take on Marvel stuff, where it's all like, it's kind of lighthearted, it has all this humor. You know, Ant-Man was like I mean, Ant-Man is a really good, fun movie, but it's not going to be my favorite movie, because I usually want things to be a little more serious, and especially, you know, back when I was younger, did. But and I have some problems with the Avengers movies, but, you know, it's just like, I think there are really good reasons that everyone likes the Iron Man movies.
Oh yeah.
And the Avenger movies. And yeah, there are things that could be better about them, like especially Avengers, but like, it's like, I run into this situation where, you know, popular does not actually equal good, but I think in the case of the Marvel movies, they're very smart about the ways in which they make it popular, and they make it popular through ways that I don't consider, like, morally apprehensible or like poor artistry. You know, it's like they know exactly what note to play, and they play the right note, and they don't offend my intelligence, but
by playing that note, but they keep it very,
yeah, it's like light or lighthearted, or, you know, but, you know, take like well, like Winter Soldier, I thought was actually a really good movie. Like, there were some parts of the ending I was kind of but, like, I think that is the and that guy is actually slated, I believe, to do the next Avengers movie, the director behind that movie. And I think Winter Soldier is probably the best of the Marvel movies, I would say. Terms of, like, and it doesn't have as much humor, and that's probably why I like it more. You know, it has a more serious, kind of darker storyline, but but I think that's the storyline that they need for some of the Avenger films, just in terms of a fit for that franchise and everything, and also as epic as they try to make them. I think you have to get a little bit darker to make the threat seem more real. So.
Yeah. I agree. Closing question. So, because we're a little bit over time, Doom asked what you thought about the Leto Joker.
I don't really have an opinion. I mean, I think they did a pretty cool job with the costume. It's anymore. I'm not as interested in kind of accuracy to the original work as I used to be. Like, you know, I used to be kind of a hardliner. Like, I want everything to be totally authentic to the source material, but like, I'm kind of interested in seeing them change up what the Joker looks like, or change up the voice actor for, you know, what was it, I just read that there's some actor who's going to voice the Joker in the Lego Batman movie, which I assume is probably a direct-to-DVD movie, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be in theaters. But it's And now I can't remember Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
what
interesting.
I read that last night, I think. And so it's just like, okay, yeah, like I'm interested in seeing different people's takes on the Joker, or on, you know, and
Yeah,
and
Mike,
I don't know
Mike
much about Jared Leto,
Galifianakis.
but Katie really likes him as an actor, partly because she knows about, you know, his music career and stuff. And I think it's just like the roles that he's played are kind of interesting. So I think he's probably a good choice to play the Joker. The, you know, kind of like trying to make him look like a, I don't know, like a tattooed male model or something is kind of strange, but it's like it's like one of those smart decisions that I feel like as a producer of media I probably wouldn't think of, but I'm like, oh, that's actually like a really smart and interesting take. Like, yeah, maybe it's not as authentic, but it's you know, I'm kind of up for seeing what they do with that. Even though I think probably all those DC movies are going to be horrible in some ways.
Yeah.
And I will still watch them and probably still like them, and also still think that parts of them are horrible.
Yeah.
I did like the most recent Superman movie pretty well, though.
I haven't seen it because I really dislike Superman.
It's I'd be interested to hear what you think. Like, the weird thing is it has like the first half is so meditative and kind of cool. Even though, like, it's, well, like, how many times are we going to tell the Superman origin story? You know, it has a little bit of that. But I think it's, like, it's interesting that Zack Snyder is actually, like, a much better movie maker when he's doing these kind of, like, slow, thoughtful moments, as opposed to when he's doing, like, you know, balls out action.
Yeah.
Because the first half is all about him becoming Superman. When
Right.
he's basically a teenager and kind of testing his limits and trying to find out what his power means.
One of these days, sorry to interrupt. One of these days, we'll have to get you and a couple other of the Pixelscopic guys, and maybe Mike if he wants to come in and talk about comic book movies and stuff. But we should have just a stream where we sit and talk about this sort of stuff. So I think it'd be pretty interesting to get everyone's opinions on.
Yeah. Are you needing to leave, by the way?
No.
Okay.
I know you need to probably go.
Really, just because I'm hungry for dinner is the only reason.
Oh yeah,
so
I need to go. I got the check, so I need to go buy groceries because I've been bad about not stocking my kitchen.
Okay.
I made a note next week. You said something that I actually talked about again with Doom. Because we talk about a lot of this sort of stuff. I went and saw the Fantastic Four movie on I think it was Monday. So I put it on a note. So next stream I'll bring this up. But I have some pretty strong opinions on what should change in comic book movies if comic book movies are going to continue to be something.
Well, it seems like everybody hates the Fantastic Four movie.
It was awful.
Yeah.
The best part of that movie was the Deadpool trailer at the beginning. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't say that. They did a really good job retelling the story in the first 30 minutes. I thought. The acting was really good. The characters were really well done. It was after... I'm sorry to keep dragging this stream on because I know you want to go eat, but... the biggest problem with that movie was, okay, we've told the origin story, now they're the Fantastic Four, what do we do? Oh, I know, let's split them up, make them hate each other, and then never address that again. Oh shit, it's 20 minutes before the movie ends. Okay, here's Doctor Doom, and he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
Movie ends.
And I think that's... Yeah, if you kind of boil it down, it's like I think for a movie where you've got an audience who hasn't kept up with the storyline from the comics, like they don't necessarily know the history, and you maybe have to try to please everyone to some degree. There's like you've got to retell a bit of the story, but I think they tend to try to tell too much of the backstory in every movie. But
the biggest problem is that it's.
Well, and also, like, what does the threat boil down to? Like, oh, the bigger, badder dude, and, maybe we mix in some distrust among allies, or, that sort of thing.
And it's so overplayed. It's so overplayed.
Well, and that was my problem with the newest Jurassic Park movie. It's just like, well, what, what do we... Yeah, you should probably see that at some point. too. I mean, you could probably wait for a DVD or whatever. It's not. I mean, it is cool to see it in 3D, I will say, but it's, you know, what do you do with a Jurassic Park movie? Well, you've got to have a bunch of big monster chase scenes, and so what do? We come up with a bigger, badder monster.
Yeah. With
maybe some like monster superpowers, kind of, and have a you know, a reasonable-ish science explanation for it. But it's, you know, it just, there's nothing, like, they don't have that many new things to add. Or it's like, you know, now the raptors are kind of good, sort of, but we you know, we're not really safe around them, but they're kind of are helping us. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, I think they really, to make a really successful long-running Jurassic Park franchise, they really needed to change it up somehow. Or maybe totally reboot it, or I don't know. Like, you know, I liked the first movie a lot, but it's like there's just no way to make an effective sequel to that movie, because every single time it's like, well, the park goes to shit, monsters run amok.
Yep.
Like,
it paint by numbers storyline. Yeah.
So, and yeah, you have to totally just like reinvent the wheel with that somehow. Like, you know, what happens if, like, you know what, okay, let's set it in the Midwest and like a fucking raptor shows up in Springfield. You know, that could be actually a very interesting, like, almost like a, you know, zombie horror movie sort of thing, like, where, you know, this, and they're like, how did they get there? How did they get loose? How are they on the continent? But then the movie changes genres, and, you know, like, and then people aren't ready for that. So but at the same time, you know, just doing a monster movie, like, they're, you know, it's monster movies are the same thing every time.
Yeah. Mike said he liked the story. He thought that the story worked well for what they had created.
Yeah,
I can't weigh in on it. I really wanted to go see it.
It was a fun summer movie to go to with, you know, with my fiance, or with, you know, with a family or whatever. And kids can see it, and, you know, I think that was probably important to the movie makers, and they did a good job of that.
The fact that I was supposed to go see Jurassic World with my sister and some of our friends, and they're all super busy. I mean, I sit and work on the internet all day, so it's not like I really, you know, my schedule is pretty fluid. Theirs isn't. So I always had the stigma of, oh, you can't go watch movies by yourself because that's really sad and lonely. And I really wanted to see the Avengers 2, which came out around the same time as Jurassic World. And I kept saying, well, I'll wait and go see Avengers 2. I'll wait and go see Avengers 2. And then everyone, like, we were supposed to go see Jurassic Park like 3 weekends in a row, and then everyone just was like, nope, we're too busy. No, we're too busy. I don't want to go out because I've been busy all week and I just want a day to relax. So I was like, fine, I'm going to go see Avengers 2 by myself. You guys can we'll go see it together if you guys want, but I'm done waiting for you guys. And then I was like, wow, I had a really fun time going and seeing this movie. Even though it was super early, and then I had to come, like, literally within 3 minutes, like, almost miss the beginning of this stream, which, you know, is my job. And I was like, I really had a fun time. And then I was like, oh, I really want to see Ant-Man. So I went and saw Ant-Man on a Thursday night showing, but, you know, before it was officially released on Friday. And I was like, you know what? It isn't sad and lonely. This is great. And then I was like, what other movies do I want to see? So now it's just like, you know what? It's really nice to get out and do things and not have to worry about, like, scheduling my time around other people. Yeah. So you know, Jurassic World really was kind of this crystallizing moment of, I can go out and be an adult and do things without having to worry about, like, what everyone else is like. Well, we wanted to see that movie with you. It's like, well, I tried to make time. Yeah. So it was nice, and I didn't even plan on going and seeing Mission Impossible last night. I was actually going to do some work. And then I was like, you know what? It's 8 o'clock. I had just got done watching Mike play Guns of the Patriots. Metal
Gear.
Metal Gear Solid game. And I was like, you know what? I watched one movie. I should go see another movie. And I just Googled, you know, like, when's the next showing? It was like 9:45. I'm like, well, it's 9 now. So I'll just go and get ready and go and watch it. And I was the only one in the theater at 9:45, so I was like, you know what, there's a Walmart right next to the theater. I was like, I'm just gonna go and buy a bunch of, like, junk food. And I walked in with, like, a Walmart bag, and the guy selling tickets just kind of looked at me. I was like, I bought, like, these jelly cookies. I was like, you want a cookie? He's like, yeah, I do. No one's been here all night, because it was, you know, a Thursday,
That's pretty awesome.
at like 9 o'clock, so it's
Yeah.
like dead. And I'm like, here, have a pack of cookies. He's like, I won't even stop you from bringing like a 2-liter of soda in. Just go in and enjoy your movie. So it was pretty cool. And then like I went when I saw Fantastic Four. I was the only one in the theater because again it was like super late. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if these kids even bought a ticket. But there was like these 3 like high school aged kids who just kept coming in and out with their smartphones on, like flashing lights everywhere, and throwing popcorn and just kind of being disruptive. And I mean I wasn't enjoying the movie by the time like they came in like 30 minutes in, and that was when the movie really starts to get stupid. So I was like, you know what? I don't even care that they're ruining this movie. This movie's terrible. And I'd heard it was bad, but I was like, you know what? I don't care. I want to go and see it just to see how bad it is, and it's not good. Yeah. But it is now 30 minutes after, so we should let you go and eat.
Okay.
Pixelscopic movie night. I think we should. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I don't know how to like watch a movie and comment. Well, and I guess we probably can't watch it and stream the movie.
We would have to do it not on Twitch. We would be able to do it on another streaming thing.
Yeah.
But maybe when the game launches, and like I said, I do want to do like a 24-hour thing. Maybe not with Pixelscopic, but if I do fly over there, for I guess whatever you guys want to do for a release party, which I would totally be down for. There's ways we can do it. We'll talk about that when it gets closer. I know places that we could do that without getting slapped with copyright infringement stuff.
Well, I mean, maybe we could just release our audio track of us talking kind of thing, and I'm probably gonna have to go because my fiance is calling.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a good time to stop.
Yeah, thanks guys for coming. My stream froze for whatever reason, but whatever.
I think it might. Well, my phone was like ringing on my computer, but anyway, yeah. Thanks for showing up, everyone, and thank you, Kyle, as always.
Of course. Absolutely. So yeah, we'll be back next week, as far as I know. If not, I'm going to be more proactive with getting things done on the Twitter stuff. So if we're not, you guys will know in